AutoLine After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey.
Okay, Gary, lay it on me. I know you got something.
Do you want one? Do you want one?
Well, let's hear it.
All right. So, as you know, World War II ended in September of 1945.
Okay.
A car company was established on July 25th, 1945, and had production operations in the Willow Run plant.
Whoa.
So think about this. The war is still going on.
Right.
This company is established, and that's where they...
So I was going to guess Crosley. It's not Crosley.
Not Crosley.
Huh. You stumped me. You guys have any idea?
No. Kaiser Fraser Corporation.
Very interesting. Kaiser.
So the interesting thing is so you got these two guys, Henry Kaiser and Joseph Fraser, and they start this company in 1945, and then they have a falling out in 1951. So Fraser leaves and says, "To hell with it, I'm going to go do something else." So then it became the Kaiser Motor Car Company. So,
by the way, they built the Liberty ships during the Second World War.
And in 1953, Kaiser bought Willys Overland.
Correct.
And so then in 1956, they had a line of sedans that Kaiser was building, and then they said in 56, just going to do the Utes, right? This is all we're going to do. So in 1970, the Kaiser Jeep Corporation was purchased from American Motors. So Kaiser Jeep was sold to American Motors, and then American Motors, of course, was sold to Chrysler in 1987.
Yeah. Kaiser, by the way, started building Jeeps in Argentina, probably in the 1950s, in the 1960s for sure. And it was they were Jeeps, but they were known as Kaisers. And
so bar bets for everybody. You can now you know that this is, but and you guys are probably bored as hell. So let's get on with the show.
Let's get on with the show and tell everybody we got Lance Woelfer here. He's the vice president of sales for Honda of America, American Honda. American Honda. Okay. And we got Paul Waatti back from AutoPacific. Great to have you here back.
Nice to be back, guys.
So
great to be here.
Let's talk Honda. Let's talk sales. You guys outsold Stellantis last month. Now, part of that talks to issues at Stellantis, but man, you guys are roaring. COVID, you ran into all kinds of production problems, right? I mean, sales cratered, and looks like you're roaring back right now.
Well, last year was a great year for us. We had tremendous growth, outpaced the industry, and this year that's continuing at a little bit more modest pace. But yeah, we've outperformed the industry with about 11% growth for the corporation overall. Mm-hmm. So it's just been a strong year. Continues to be, and we foresee it continuing.
You got the right allocation of all the products you need?
Yeah, I mean, really right now we're focused on the right allocation specifically. We want to make sure the dealers have a great supply, but we don't want to oversupply the market. We want to make sure we're about a 30-day supply for our dealers. So when a customer comes into a dealership, they've got the availability to be able to meet their needs, but we're not in a position where there's a huge amount of vehicles.
You're not going to 90, 100 days, right?
Yeah, 30 days, on ground is a great supply for a Honda or Acura dealership.
Mm-hmm. One other quick, this CDK cyber hack.
Sure.
That shut down so many dealerships. What was the impact on you guys?
Well, it was industry-wide, and we were similar to everyone else, where it impacted dealers' immediate ability to have the normal throughput they would. They had to transact a little bit differently as they went back to different tools. So if they were using their CRM for, most of their activity at the dealership, there's a lot of ways that they can still conduct that part of the business, like with us reporting a sale or working with the finance division. So they just had to make the adjustment to be able to do it, through the other systems that we have available to them. But it was significant initially for a couple of days, certainly to the dealers. And by the end of the month, pretty much a full recovery in their ability to do business. But it, continues to recover.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You talk about vehicles that are available in the market.
Yeah.
And I think that, I've covered Honda for a long time, and even I was surprised when I looked and saw that the Cars.com 2024 American Made Index, we've had Jenny Newman on the show from Cars.com, that Honda had 3 vehicles in the top 10 most American made vehicles. You tied with Tesla. And the really surprising part to me is that there was nothing from General Motors and there was nothing from Ford in the top 10, and that Honda actually had the most in the top 20 of any.
I think it was 6, if I remember.
9 Honda and Acura models in the top 20. So
Remember, there is Acura.
yeah, I mean,
Well,
so 70% of Honda vehicles and 100% of
Yeah.
Acura vehicles sold in the U.S. in 23 were built in the United States. I think that that is something that sometimes doesn't get a sufficient amount of attention. You guys have really, really focused on this market,
Yeah.
and tailoring vehicles to the interests of the market.
Well, yeah, the North American market is big for Honda. It's an important part of our business, but overall, we work to localize our production and source everything as much as possible in the local areas, as far as it makes sense. So that gives us really a good connection to the community. We're building where we sell cars, and has been successful for us really in the United States in particular. But yeah, we are building a lot of vehicles in North America right now. Almost everything is built in North America today.
And more than ever right now, as we're moving towards more EVs and electrification, localized production is probably more important than ever. And
Well,
you guys are well positioned with a good footprint already.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, certainly as we transition to electrification, it's continuing to be part of our business. You know, we've recently announced investments in both Canada and our EV hub in Ohio, and making sure that you know, we're positioned to transition successfully. So localization is a big part of that.
let's talk more about EVs. You got the
Okay.
Prologue
Yes,
in the
we do.
lineup right now. In fact, I'm test driving one. It's out in the parking lot here of the studio. But tell us, what are your expectations? What are your customers asking for? Fill in the blanks.
Well, you know, we've seen Honda buyers transition really effectively to the hybrids that we've had in the marketplace for quite some time, but really escalated our hybrid sales last year, where it was CRV was the best-selling hybrid vehicle in the United States. Accord was the best-selling sedan. Now, with the recent launch of both the Prologue and the ZDX, really meets the needs of our customers who've been transitioning to electrification or wanting to transition to electrification. So our expectation is that we're going to be able to keep loyal Honda buyers in the brand, and anybody who's ready to transition to electrification, we've got products that really are strong competitors in the marketplace.
I've seen sales targets of 40,000 Prologues. Is that this year, or
Well, I
over
think-
what period of time?
Well, you know, the launch really is ramping up now. So I think we can get to that level of sales and production soon. As far as what our number is for the year, 40,000's, you know, what we can do in a 12-month period, certainly. And I think as we saw when the launch was really started supplying dealers strongly over the last couple of months, where they've got a good mix and supply of vehicles specifically now, we're seeing sales ramp up pretty significantly.
Do you see that as being aggregative, if there's such a word, aggregating? And here's what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Mary Barra said 56% of EV buyers are new to GM.
Interesting.
Do you think that you're going to get that kind of a conquest?
We expect 70-ish% of Prologue and ZDX buyers to be loyal Honda consumers. It is an opportunity for us to bring new buyers into the brand, and 30% may be conquest buyers. But our first thought is we want to make sure that Honda loyalists have an opportunity to, you know, find an EV within the brand. But conquest is a significant part of the sales. But Honda's more of a 70% forecast.
Got it. And have your customers been asking for EVs? I mean, you're kind of
Sure.
late to the party, not terribly
Yeah.
late, but others are way out there in front of you. So
Well, we've approached it as a marathon, not a sprint. And hybrids have been a really important part of, you know, our transition. And, you know, bringing these cars to market now with more coming soon that are going to be utilizing some of that production, like the EV hub that I was talking about in Ohio, I think we're actually in a great place for our consumers. And yes, they've been asking for them, and I think we came out with the right vehicles at the right time.
So to the point of hybrids, which I'm a bigger fan of than you are, John, and I'm driving a Civic hybrid right now and getting 50 miles per gallon and wondering why anybody would think they need anything else. So Honda actually had the first hybrids available in the United States, the Insight in 1999.
Yeah.
So you beat the Prius. Everybody thinks Prius is the one. So are you at all surprised at the shift in the market, that there seems to be less overall interest in EVs than there had thought there would be, and that hybrids are really coming back in a very strong way?
No, because when you look at what we had prepared for, which was 50% of our CRV and Accord production, actually a little more than that, and our sales are hybrid. So I think we were prepared for this. And when you look at the Civic Hybrid that's launching now, just hitting dealerships today, and then the, what do I think of, the hatchback will be coming out in the next couple of months, it's really fitting into our plans perfectly, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are great cars, and
Yeah.
you're driving one.
And the so what is your strategy to get to that 50% mix? It seems pretty clear that you guys are, putting where the volume is. You're giving the hybrid as a standard.
Mhm.
Are your customers actually asking for the hybrids, or are you
Absolutely. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of demand for the hybrid. It's generally the higher end trims within those models. And we're seeing the performance, the styling, and the gas mileage really is meeting customer needs. So there's a lot of demands for our hybrids. So the mix at 50% is really about right.
If you go back 15 years or so ago, there was a lot of confusion in the public's mind, the general public's mind,
Sure.
about hybrids, and they
Sure.
didn't understand it. Has that gone away, and this is now why you're seeing so much demand?
I think, yeah, absolutely. There's a better understanding of what a hybrid is and brings to the table. And I think now that they're starting to really impact performance of the vehicle as well. When you look
Most
at the Civic
day-to-day
Hybrid
driving
coming out,
situations.
it's got about 232 foot-pounds of torque with 200 horsepower. This is an amazing performance in this vehicle, and it gets 50 miles to the gallon. So they're bringing more to the table than ever before, and I think it really creates an opportunity for them to meet people's needs.
Can you get the pricing you need to pay for the extra hardware that goes into a hybrid?
Yeah, people are stepping up to make the decision. I mean, there's more to it than just it being a hybrid. In a lot of cases, these are, as I said, the higher end trims. And absolutely, consumers are stepping up to the, higher end trims that include the hybrid.
So earlier this month, you guys started doing something that is rather unusual in the industry. There aren't very many companies doing it. You're offering a fuel cell powered vehicle. You
Sure.
have the CRV and CRV-E FCEV.
Yeah.
Pretty long title there. So talk to us about that. I mean, what's the decision? You guys, again, have been doing lots with hydrogen over the years.
Sure.
And offering it to the market. This isn't something, that this is first rodeo that you've been in, but it seems to have gone away and now it's coming back.
Well, we've been pursuing it, as you mentioned, for quite some time. And most recently, I think the Clarity is where we had been spending our time putting that in the market and learning. And I think this is just another opportunity for us to learn more about that technology and really work with consumers to find out what fits their needs and pursue multiple options towards zero emissions. BEV is obviously something that drives towards zero emissions, and our goal is to get to zero emissions by 2040 and be net carbon neutral by 2050 as a global corporation. So there could be definitely an opportunity for fuel cell to play a role in that. So we're misspeaking, but I mean to say we're continuing to just invest and pursue that technology as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lance, there's a massive tax credit too, right? Rebate from the government for getting a fuel cell vehicle. Isn't it something crazy like $35,000?
It may be. I actually can't answer that question because I don't know.
Yeah. No, well, look, we know this is going to be very low volume, ergo the costs are going to be very high because there's no scale to it.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a big incentive to get people to try these things. So I know it's a big incentive. I don't know the number.
Right. I don't know the details of it, but I know that there's just an opportunity for us to continue to identify ways that we can meet consumer needs and look at various technologies as we grow the business. So those investments make sense.
Yeah. You've mentioned the Accord and the Civic. Has the market share for sedans, passenger sedans, bottomed out in the U.S. market? We've seen a
Sure.
huge fall off the cliff in the last decade,
Yeah.
and now it looks to me like they've reached a floor.
Yeah, and we're all in on sedans and have continued to be with the Civic and the Accord. And I think from a market perspective, yeah, there's an opportunity, I think, that we can grow that business. I don't know if it's reached a bottom or not, when you think about the overall industry, but for Honda, there continues to be potential there. We sell a significant number of Accords. It's a big part of our business. And with the addition of the hybrid to the Civic, we can continue to expand it as we go forward. But our sales of that model are pretty significant still. It's a couple 100,000 Civics a year, so
Yeah,
it's a big part of our business.
there's what, maybe 3 companies, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, Kia as a group that have stayed committed to that. But in the industry, do you think? Do you have any sense if it's?
I don't know what
the-
the industry will do on it. I don't know what they see. I think maybe gas prices might make it a more attractive option for more customers than has been recently. But for Honda, there's absolutely room for us to continue and support the Accord and the CRV.
Yeah,
Industry-wise, I think that's possible. But I
last year, 198,000 Accords and 200,000 Civics. I mean, it's like a nice business to have.
Yeah.
And I bet there are those companies that don't
and
have
we're-
it really wish they had some of that.
And we're growing Civic this year, as I mentioned.
There's also that theory that, there might be a revival of sedans in some way with the move towards electrification because of the, they're a lot more slippery. You can get a lot more range out of, a similar size vehicle. And so we see an opportunity for some automakers to maybe reintroduce some sedans later down the road that may have gotten out earlier.
Oh, no kidding. Who do you think?
Well, I mean, GM, as they're leaving right now with Malibu, an EV is a good opportunity to come back with.
Mm-hmm.
I think overall in the industry, with considering that, you can get, a decent sized package on the interior and lots of cargo room, it could make more sense in an EV application versus traditional ICE sedans.
Yeah.
You guys also continue with the minivan. How's the Odyssey doing for you?
Great. The sales throughput on that vehicle has been strong, and the days supplies remain pretty low, actually. So there's good demand for it, and we see continued potential in that part of the market. Odyssey's doing great.
So there wasn't a situation where younger generations, as they get older, say, "Oh, I grew up in that minivan. I got to get something else."
Well, I mean, I think there's been some transition from minivan to SUVs. We've seen that market grow, but it's continued to be a segment where it's supporting us with 70, 80,000 sales a year. Pretty significant and a strong part of the market. So it's great for us.
Are you looking at any opportunity for heavy-duty off-road performance? I mean, Jeep has made a boatload of money, although they're running into some sales issues right now. Ford has hit a home run with the Bronco. And where I'm coming from, I've talked to some heavy-duty off-road customers, and they're like, why didn't Jeep go out and buy, what am I trying to say? Like the side-by-side or dirt bikes, why don't they have like a range extension of the Jeep line or maybe Ford with the Bronco? You guys make side-by-sides, you make dirt bikes, any thoughts of getting into something that would compete with the Wrangler or the Bronco?
Well, I think we've brought to market some recent trail sports in both the Passport and in the Pilot in particular, as well as the Ridgeline, that have enhanced the off-road capabilities of our vehicles, and I think really done well for us. We see a significant portion of the Pilot right now is trail sport, and all those models, it's had an impact. And they're fun to drive, they're rugged, and consumers are loving them.
But, I'm thinking more extreme, like Rubicon Trail capable kind of vehicles. Is that something that Honda would look at?
I'm sure we'd look at it. I can't get into future product.
Okay, yeah.
But I hear you, and that's certainly a part of the market that's interesting.
Okay, and pickups. You've done fairly consistent work or sales with the Ridgeline.
We had the best year ever last year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So where can you take that truck? Where's more up for the Ridgeline?
Well, the Ridgeline is doing a great job of giving, loyal Honda customers an opportunity from a truck standpoint. I think that it really fits in the marketplace to make sure that we can keep Honda customers focused on driving Honda vehicles. So right now it's really, I think, at a great volume point for us at that 50-ish thousand level where we could take it. I mean, there's certainly, opportunity in every model to grow, and there's opportunity there. But really, trail sport, I think, gives us an opportunity to enhance that vehicle and the people that would be interested in it, and we could grow that part of that business. But Ridgeline's really doing a great job for us.
So what's the nature of a person who buys a Ridgeline rather than buying one of the crossovers?
I think that, where we see Honda buyers gravitate to the Ridgeline often is somebody who's got a car in their driveway. A Ridgeline's an option instead of an SUV, or you see a lot of people who have SUVs have a truck because it's still easier to haul stuff around with a Ridgeline, throw something in the back, put a load of bark dust in the back. I don't know if you call it that here, but from the Pacific Northwest, that's what we call mulch. But, really just the versatility of having a truck. So, and a lot of people in a lot of the parts of the country really look forward to that. So,
So you also have Acura under your purview.
Absolutely.
And tell us about how that's doing.
Acura's doing great. In fact, the second quarter of this year, we were up about 11% over the first quarter. And we continue to build momentum with that brand this year. And again, overall, we're looking to be up about 10% for American Honda. And Acura is going to be about 150,000 units this year. And Honda, somewhere between 1.2, 1.3 million units. So it's a big part of our business and really a great luxury brand for us.
Lance, where do you see the car market going? There was a lot of hope at the end of last year that we would hit 16 million. And every time I see a sales forecast, they're shaving numbers off it. I think the CDK hack probably really hurt June sales. The SAR was a lot lower. How do you see the second half of the year going?
Well, I think we'll recover most, if not all, of the impact of CDK. If somebody needs a vehicle, they're going to find a way to get one. 15.5 to 16 million is our forecast for the year, in line with most of the analyst predictions. And it seems to me to be pacing right in line with that.
It does, but that's a little bit weaker than what everyone thought.
It's in line with what we were thinking for the year.
Is it?
Yeah.
Paul, you guys must make forecasts on it too. Well,
Yeah, so we were, I think at the beginning of the year, I think we were at 15.8, and I think we're dropping down now. We're in the middle of doing our Q3 right now forecast, so I'm not exactly sure where we're going to end up, but it's going to be less than what we had predicted earlier in the year.
So the market's a little bit softer.
Yeah, but I mean, we're outpacing the industry, so I'm keeping an eye on that. So it makes me pretty confident.
So I mean, are value and affordability sort of the things that are characteristics that bring people to Honda, and which allow you guys to have this market that you're experiencing now?
Well, that may be a good way to put it. I mean, I really think Honda and Acura, we do a great job of making sure we've got what a customer is looking for in the vehicle. And we focus on bringing it to market at a price that, is affordable to the consumer and meets their needs. We also will look at, what we've got from a trim lineup and a model lineup. So, and you take a look at our hybrid strategy, where that's 50% of Accord and CRV, that means 50% are petrol. And those are generally lower priced, as you were asking about, are customers willing to make that investment to get a hybrid? Some customers are looking for that traditional gasoline or a lower payment. And so we've got a mix of both that I think gives us the right position in the marketplace. So I think that works for us. So, yeah.
Apparently it does.
Motor racing, do you pay much attention to that on the sales side?
Fan.
And I'm just curious, Honda's commitment to IndyCar. It had sort of suggested that it might not continuing in the series in the future unless it could find another engine manufacturer.
I don't have any news to make there. You'd have to talk to Honda Racing Corporation, or PR folks about that. But I'll tell you that I'm excited about F1, IndyCar. I'm a big fan, but I don't have any news to make there.
Okay. So win on Sundays or sell on Monday. You think that's still there, or is it a bit more subtle than that?
I think it's more subtle than that. I've always been a racing fan, but now I've gotten really into F1 probably over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And I think we see a lot of the U.S. market getting excited about it. And I've had an opportunity to go to a couple of races. I think it generates excitement overall. But yeah, I don't think it's a win on Sunday, sell on Monday. I think it's create, positive momentum and excitement for the brand. And we get a lot out of it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see Honda really re-up its commitment to F1.
Yeah.
With the next generation of powertrain that's coming.
Yeah, it's exciting.
In terms of the act of selling a vehicle, I mean, there had been some discussion that more would be shifting to online sales and less reliance on dealership models. Where is Honda on that?
Well, I think the consumer sets the pace for how many cars are going to be sold online versus, the traditional method. But, we're prepared. If a customer wants to buy a car online, they can do that. It's through a dealership, but we're working to make sure that our dealers are prepared to meet a customer's needs. So we've got, the ability to do that when appropriate. So it's really a pace set by the consumer, but I think it's something that you've got to be involved in and you've got to be prepared for, because more and more consumers are going to be interested in pursuing that ability to buy that way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Build to order. There was talk when COVID hit, when you couldn't go to dealerships and that, that there was a big increase in direct orders rather than buying off the lot, because there wasn't much to buy off the lot, right?
Yeah.
Has that changed at all? Are people ordering more cars or just buying what's available?
We're seeing more, pre-sold units where consumers may be buying into the dealer's inventory than we saw before COVID. But it was certainly at a higher level in COVID because there just wasn't any availability. You had to wait for a vehicle. But we are seeing more of a tendency for consumers to be able to wait for the color of their choice, the trim of their choice, whatever matches their needs. And I think as you look at your question about buying online, I think that fits into that very well. And giving the consumer the opportunity to plan ahead and buy the vehicle that's perfect for them.
Can you quantify that in any way? There's 10% more that are ordering or whatever? Because I find it fascinating, and you brought it up, waiting for the color that they want.
Yeah.
Because as you know, and this is true all across the industry, all over the world, you get white, black, or silver because the dealers order that because those are safe colors.
Yeah.
And so, we've seen a great decrease in the variety of colors of cars over the last couple of decades. And if people are willing to wait to get the color they want, I'm just wondering if you can give us a sense for how much of an increase there might be in that.
It's a great question, but since it's been on the, down since COVID, I don't know that I can give you an exact number on that and quantify. We can get back to you with that. But I think, one thing about Honda is we've always, simplified our models, trims, colors. It would certainly meet customers' expectations, but not gone overboard on that, which makes it, less of a challenge, I think, when you go to a dealership to be able to find what you're looking for. At a 30-day supply, we've got a pretty good availability in a dealership's lot, but it's higher than it was before COVID, but I can't answer that question directly.
But I'm just interested because I hope people take the time to get what they want. I mean, it's a huge purchase for them. And to have the satisfaction of getting exactly the vehicle you want rather than settle for some sort of deal and get something that doesn't match what you want. I think it's healthy for the industry if people get what they want.
I think it's healthy for the industry, and the customer satisfaction, as you indicated, is going to be quite a bit higher. You're driving exactly what you came in looking for. Sometimes people come into the dealership and they'll learn more about the product and they'll make a decision to make a switch. And that's, really just talks about the value that dealers bring to the equation in making sure that a customer gets the vehicle that's right for them. And they continue to be important as we go through the process, even as consumers may look into what they can do from an online standpoint. But it is important that we find ways to make sure that the customer gets exactly the vehicle they're looking for. They're going to be far happier.
Yeah. But that would necessitate having efficient manufacturing, which these guys do have. So that's in there because I'm thinking the number of people who have Amazon Prime and are annoyed if it takes more than 24 hours to get their product delivered to them. So there's still this demand that it's
we want
really
instant gratification. I mean, that's the American way of buying anything, just about. But it's interesting. I've got a historic color chart somewhere here in my office that shows car colors in Europe, the U.S., and Japan. From the 1950s through the 2000s. And if you look at the 50s and early part of the 60s, color everywhere. And then Europe is the first to go black, white, silver. Japan was pretty much always white. I mean, it's like 80% of the vehicles over there are white. And sure enough, around the mid 80s, the US starts following what Europe was going. And then by the time you get to the 2000s, the colors are almost all the same. And not many reds, not many blues, not many greens, or any of those others. So,
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I see a lot of cars, right? So I definitely notice the colors and differences we see when we go to a dealer's lot. But we look at the majority of what they're selling. The silvers are very popular.
They are.
Yep.
But that's because the dealers ordered them.
Maybe so.
Hey, look, we've come to the end of the first half of the
Okay.
show, but Lance, great
Oh,
having you
thank
on the
you for your
show
time.
here. Very interesting. Very good to see the strength in sales that Honda is showing
Well, we're
right
excited,
now,
man.
coming out of the disaster of a couple of years ago. So good on you guys.
Well, thank you for your time. It's a
Thanks,
pleasure
Lance.
to be here.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
We're going to take a quick commercial break right now. Give a shout out to our sponsor, Bridgestone.
When the elements are working against you, being confident in your grip on the road is what really matters. Bridgestone Alenza tires, improved acceleration in wet conditions.
All right, we're back. And can get into a lot of other things that are going into this industry right now.
So big week for earnings reports.
Yeah, big week of earnings. Not everybody has reported so far. Overall, it doesn't look that good. I mean, Tesla had a disastrous quarter, I think. I mean, sales down, profits fell off a cliff, but they're not the only one. I mean,
Well,
Stellantis had a bad quarter. Nissan had a bad quarter. Renault had a bad quarter.
Let's stick with Tesla for a moment. Paul, do you see that basically part of the reason that it isn't doing as well as it has been doing is because its models are getting too old?
Yeah, I think a lot of attention's been on other projects besides automotive, and that is starting to show very well now that these products have been neglected quite a bit. I think we do have some changes coming to Model Y, some like similar to the Highland for Model 3, but we've been seeing this design for so long, and I think consumers are starting to say, hey, I mean, this feels old.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the hardcore Tesla fans will go, you guys don't know what you're talking about. There's been
Right.
all these updates. There's been all these changes. But this is a fashion industry.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. This is a fashion industry, and you've got to have the freshest products out there. And automotive history shows that whoever has the right cadence of dropping in a couple of new models every year gains market share. And if
Right.
you do not change your styling, the public grows old of it very quickly.
Right.
And over-the-air updates is not enough. When Tesla was the only EV game in town, that was fine.
Yeah.
But now it's facing serious competition. And I point out, Hyundai, Kia, oh my God, what they've done with their EV stuff has been sensational. And I think styling has got that. I always like to quote Steve Pastiner, designer in the industry that a lot of people know, who said, of course, styling matters. If people don't even notice your car, how will they ever know they want it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Tesla has got itself in a rut right now where the S and the X styling has not changed in over a decade.
Over a decade, yeah.
They had that front end styling, but that was around 2014. Nothing has changed since then. You mentioned the Highland on the 3, very minor refresh on the front end. That was invisible.
That was mostly manufacturing stuff that increased their profitability.
Right.
Were a bulk of the changes. So for a consumer to come in and they don't see any noticeable updates, you still feel like you're in an old product, even though a lot of it has been changed under the skin.
Okay,
or in software.
But don't you think that maybe what it is and John, you mentioned that you'd get a lot of reaction from the Tesla faithful saying, "Hey, wait a minute, you don't know what you're talking about. There's been all these changes." So those folks are completely keyed into what is been changed and what is changing. And as you say, the normal person who isn't a Tesla fan, not to say that Tesla fans are abnormal, but just a regular consumer isn't going to notice it as much.
Right.
So the question becomes, have they basically reached all of the people who are enthusiasts, and therefore that is going to contribute to them hitting a ceiling, or maybe even losing because you can't buy a new car every other year?
It's a good question. I think it varies regionally. So if you go out to California, I talk to all my friends out in California, they go, oh my God, Teslas are everywhere. And so there's, I'm not going to say a saturation point because there's actually more Toyotas out there still in the aggregate, but Teslas are everywhere. So when most people buy a new car, they want everybody to know, I got a brand new one. And if you go out and buy a brand new Model Y, it doesn't look any different than the ones that came out 5 years ago. And so it's like, you're not showing the world you got a new car. Whereas I think if you got a Tesla here in Michigan, it's a totally different story. You don't see them all that. I mean, you see them I see them every day, but they're not ubiquitous like they are in California or other markets. And so I think Tesla can still do good in markets where it's not strong. Where it's really showing its weakness is where it has been strong.
But if the demand we're still seeing being greater in California for electric vehicles across the board than any place else in the country, and that's the saturated area, then they got a problem.
Well, and it goes beyond that because, here's Elon Musk trashing California saying, I moved Tesla out, now I'm going to move X out, SpaceX, now I'm going to move Neuralink out, and, just bashing the state. And I'm sure a lot of people in California are saying, well, screw you. I've got other alternatives now. I'll go get, a Cadillac Lyriq. I'll go get a Hyundai Ioniq 5N. I'll go get fill in the blank EV. Whereas 5 years ago, none of those cars were there. So they had no choice. They went there and they believed in what Tesla was doing and believed in what Musk is doing. He's turned a lot of his buyers off.
So Paul, do you see the availability of vehicles from Hyundai and Kia and General Motors and Ford eating into Tesla's market or just growing the EV market?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, but I would say more that it's incremental volume in addition to Tesla. I think the Hyundai Kia, like you've been saying, that their new EVs are really grabbing a lot of attention with new styling that, it's very unique in the industry. And I think people are really catching on to that. So I do think there's a lot of people that may not have been interested in EV and they're seeing some of these new EVs and what they have to offer, saying, maybe I actually can make this work. And whereas I think the Tesla buyer was more like, the early adopter that wanted to get in, wanted the new technology, and, and then they became loyalists. I think most of the volume in the EV outside of Tesla is new, not necessarily taking from Tesla. Although I think that's going to happen at some point, especially as the models get older.
Well, look, Tesla's got 5 models now, including the Cybertruck. It's not in every vehicle segment. Others are going to go into segments where Tesla does not exist, and they're going to get that volume.
Right.
So, I mean, look at how BYD is wiping up in China right now. One of the reasons is, besides it's a pretty good company, it's in far more market segments than Tesla is. In fact, BYD is going to surpass Tesla in global EV sales probably in this quarter.
Right.
So I think not only is Tesla not been keeping its styling up to date, its limited model range is hurting it in the marketplace as well.
That's again, that comes back to where I was talking about the focus has been on AV and robotaxi, but should it have been more on this entry EV that now they're pulling forward again, and it's going to be a mishmash of old technology and new technology, not the all new technology like they were talking about.
Look, I think all this talk about robots, the Optimus robots and Neuralink and all this other
Distraction.
stuff is to get people's attention away from the fact that these models are so old and their sales are going down.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's all headlines and diversion from the core of the problem. Their market share is starting to get chipped away at, and they've never really experienced that until recently. Profitability is going down. So you could see some problems starting to come to head, and now they got to take some attention away from that until they can find a new plan.
And look, it's not like they don't know how to style cars.
Right.
They absolutely do. They've got one of the best designers in the business.
Yeah.
I'll bet Franz von Holzhausen is chomping at the bit.
Exactly.
I'll bet they've got walls of all kinds of variations and new designs that, Elon will not give the okay to.
I agree. He's probably very excited to get one of his new designs out because they haven't been out in a long time.
Right. And you mark my words, the instant they make a dramatic change to their styling, their sales are going to pop.
All right. So let me ask you, like, let's shift this to the whole styling question and go back to the fashion industry sort of approach. We've been talking about Hyundai, Kia. Now, it's just not their EVs that look great.
Right.
It's like their entire lineup
I know.
looks great. And
I
we
just
got
got out of the Santa Fe, and
the Santa Fe, yeah.
something new that these are unique designs that the market hasn't really seen, and it's they're catching a lot of attention, and you can see it in the sales and market share growth.
Yeah, and throw Genesis into the mix because that's one of their companies as well.
Well,
so the question that I have is that, okay, Paul, do you guys see that consumers are looking at the style, the fashion of the vehicle, and then the propulsion system? Or do they start out saying, I'm going to buy an EV, or I'm going to buy a hybrid, or I'm going to buy an ICE vehicle, and then they look at the styling?
That's an interesting question. I think, if you rewind back 2-3 years ago, I would say the majority of people that were buying an EV were coming in looking for an EV. Nowadays, I think we're starting to see that change as awareness is growing on different propulsion systems. It's still difficult because every automaker has different acronym for what their hybrid is. And, you got the Pacifica hybrid, which is a plug-in hybrid, but, and then how do you explain that to a consumer? And, there's a lot of confusion out there. I think a lot of people are looking for a hybrid or an EV, and they come in looking for that specifically. I think the styling might be the thing to woo them to one brand over another. I'd say overall, people that are buying hybrids or EVs are probably going into a showroom looking for that specifically. Now, that's going to start to change as, like Honda's got 50% mix. And, if you want a heated steering wheel, you got to get a hybrid because that's part of the, that's their high mix. So it's changing, but I would say the majority of people know what they want when they come into a showroom.
Sticking with the styling thing, Cadillac dropped the bombshell of a concept car this week, the Sollei, which looked to me like a two-door convertible version of the Celestiq, their $400,000 car. I think the thing is drop dead gorgeous. I think it's exactly what Cadillac needs to be doing. They presented it as a concept, but they can do this low volume stuff now that they've got the Celestiq assembly process set up. You don't even have to tool it. You just fabricate this stuff. Right. I think they're going to do it. What do you guys think?
I think that part of the excitement is predicated on the fact that hardly any companies are doing concept cars anymore. So you see something that's a concept car, it's like, wow, this is really cool. I mean, okay, if we go back over the last 10, 15 years, Cadillac has rolled out lots of beautiful concepts
that never went anywhere.
Ed Welburn, I mean, it's just we just kept seeing it, and then the production cars come out, and we're like,
what happened? What happened?
So I'm not so sure, and I mean, and this Celestiq, we're still waiting, right?
We're still waiting. That's right.
Still waiting.
Well, one of the companies that does still do concepts is Genesis, and they did a beautiful convertible concept as well, and that is supposedly going into production.
Yeah.
So you think Cadillac could do that too?
So if there's a race, okay, so which do you think is going to come out first?
Well, I think the
Genesis
Cadillac would come to market before. I think they've already got those wheels in motion. Cadillac could surprise me, but I don't think it would happen in the next 2 years, where I think it'd be a reality for Genesis to have that.
Well, let's see what happens with the Celestiq. I hear through the grapevine, production has been delayed. I don't know what you guys
That's
know.
what we thought.
They were supposed to start building them last December, right?
Exactly.
It hasn't happened.
And I haven't gotten any firm, mumblings from anybody at GM saying that it has started yet. So
it'd be interesting to know what's their order book for the Celestiq, because, they can't even build 2 a day. Mm-hmm. I mean, even at full production, the plan all along was they'd build maybe 2 a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. That's it. So, your order bank's going to be fairly low, but it's going to take a long time to fill it. So, I mean, the priority's got to be, here's people spending $400,000 on a car. Get them the damn
Right.
car.
That's to get in the door. And there's obviously
Oh, yes.
stuff
You can spend a lot
after that.
And my guess is if they put the Sollei into production, it's going to be at least $500,000, at least.
Right.
But I think they'll do it.
Do you think that's enough to make them the standard of the world again?
It's part of the process. I think they need to do halo products. They need to do, wow, look at that products. Get into Formula One like they're doing. They're really ramping up their EV stuff. By next year, they're going to have EVs up and down the model line, at least with SUVs.
Yeah.
They're going to be way out ahead of everybody at that point on the EV side. So I think something like the Sollei is, I don't want to say another brick in the wall, but another tile in the mosaic of what it takes to get Cadillac back to the top.
Right. You think
Good
they're
luck,
going to
Ken.
go all EV?
Nah,
mean, let's exclude Escalade.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, the goal was by 2030, right?
Right.
All electric. Now everybody's backing off that. Volvo, which was so committed to all EV, they're going, well, they're going to let the market decide because it's clear that a significant chunk of the car buying public wants nothing to do with electrics.
Well,
nothing.
So let's broaden this out to General Motors. I mean, they announced the Orion plant is going to stay not in production for another 6 months. They pushed that back.
Yeah, they pushed it back to mid-26.
And so what's to say that there wouldn't be another pushback after that? I mean, it's just, it's irrational exuberance, as the stock market was once described as having. That's what I think that we're seeing, that some of these car companies, and will there be consequences to companies that had claimed, or to executives running companies that had claimed, we're going to have all EV by fill in the blank, and now they're finding that that's not the case?
There's already consequences in the fact that everybody's losing boatloads of money on their electrics. They overinvested.
Yeah.
And look, the only reason they got in was because of government regulation. That's driving everything. And the EPA originally wanted, 67% market share for EVs by 2032.
Wow.
Well, even the Biden administration backed off that. They recognize that's never going to happen. And so it was this fear of global warming. The end is nigh. We've got to do things right now. We got to push this as fast as possible. And now we realize okay, even if the world is going to end, we can't get there. The public's just not ready for it, or a significant chunk of the public, for political reasons, are now completely against EVs.
Right. And we have an election coming up. What
What's
do you
that
think
going to do?
What do you think is going to happen if something changes? It's pretty clear that there was a lot of heavy investment that was way ahead of itself. We've seen nearly every automaker change their pace, at least in some form. Ford just announced they're building Super Duties in Oakville, which was supposed to be
three-row
EV.
But remember, here's another thing, that Oakville move. That's protection against the UAW.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons to do it. I actually think it's a smart move, especially considering the conditions in the market right now. But now, where are they going to build their EVs? Or are they just, that are supposed to come in 27?
Right. So, I mean, look, Oakville, it was going to be a 3-row SUV. Farley has complained the battery size and something like that puts the price in the stratosphere. And Lincoln can't get that kind of pricing. Apparently, Mercedes can't either. It's struggling with its EVs. So, look.
Seems like Kia's doing okay with that EV9.
Yeah, it is. No, look, I think Honda and Toyota have made a strategic error in allowing Hyundai and Kia to get so far ahead of with EVs. Pre-COVID, if you had said to me in 5 years, people are going to be spending $60,000 on Kias and Hyundais, I would have said, there's no way. The brand can't take it. The brand will not take that pricing. But people are paying that for their EVs. Now, it's not in grandiose numbers. It's not enough to be wildly profitable. but that has brought the brand image of Kia and Hyundai up so fast in the last 5 years. And the cross shopping, I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong on that. Cross shopping with Kia and Hyundai is largely coming out of Toyota and Honda.
Yeah.
So Toyota and Honda have let them grow their brand image tremendously in 5 years.
Right. They're in the market in a big way in EVs, and they're building that reputation now. Toyota still has the hybrids, obviously, but it's almost like they didn't want to sell any BZ4Xs. It's just not a very competitive model when you look at everything else that's out there. And that's pretty surprising from Toyota. I know that they weren't all in on EVs, and that's okay. That's a smart move. But to your point, letting Hyundai Kia get so far ahead when Toyota clearly has the technology to do it, they're just choosing not to. I think that's going to bite them.
Well, that's
later.
why I call it a strategic error.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
being very far ahead in a very small space is not that devastating to a business. I mean, and if we look at the valuation of Toyota Motor Corporation, I think it's okay for them that they
Absolutely. I mean, they could take it in stride, but
yeah.
And this is not going to be a 5-10 year transition. This is a decade's transition. So
It's early days.
it's early still. It's
early
very
days,
early in the
but-
scheme of it all.
But I mean, this Hyundai group is a monster, man. Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, and they just gave these guys almost carte blanche to compete at a much higher level price wise.
And Genesis, I can't believe the products that they're turning out. And you look at some of the competition that you would think, and Genesis is cheaper, more affordable. I should say it's not cheaper, more
value.
affordable.
They have to be.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You have to give the buyer a compelling reason.
Exactly.
But
But
say,
it's
I'm going to
been
get
working.
another Mercedes or a BMW, maybe even a Cadillac, and go, nah, maybe I should look at this Genesis. There's got to be something more compelling, and price is part of it.
Definitely.
Well, BMW's doing okay, so they've managed.
Yes, they are.
But the thing I wonder about is that so as you have younger generations that Mercedes isn't going to resonate as much with them as this new brand, and when they get a phone, they get an iPhone from Apple, or they get a Galaxy from Samsung, right? So those are basically equal products, and so Genesis to them is an equal product to a BMW or an Audi, or probably better than a Cadillac, but I didn't say that out loud, did I, John? So, I mean, I think you're going to have that change, and then that's part of the strength that they'll have going forward.
Right.
There's be a natural constituents for their product.
Yep. And I think Hyundai and Kia, well, Genesis and Kia in particular, are doing a great job, not just in the car department, but gaining awareness in other places. Genesis is big in the golf, and the sponsorships that they've had. Kia, their stadium in LA, and the brand awareness is really, really growing fast for them. And it's obviously their products are great, but they're doing a great job outside of just the auto business too.
Yeah.
So, John, Ford's earnings. Give us a snapshot on what you think happened there.
Look, they got to fix their quality problems. They had to take another big charge for warranty costs. This has been going on for a decade now. I mean, they fix that, the company's going to look a whole lot better.
So Farley's been there for a few years now. Farley, when he first started, he said he was going to address the quality problems. How do you see that working out in the long run?
They claim they're making progress. They claim they're starting to see in JD Power, IQS, initial quality survey stuff. Their numbers are they came up in like 9 places or something like that, which is good. But initial quality only measures the quality of a car after 3 months of ownership. And as I like to say, everything should work for 3 months. I mean, come on. So I think a better measure is the IQS, the initial, or the VDS, Vehicle Dependability Survey, which looks at cars after 3 years. And I'll bet you they're not they're not doing that well right now. I would say Ford's got to look at what Hyundai did, of how it pulled its quality up. Ford appointed a guy to be sort of their quality czar, but I think the guy is a director. What Hyundai did is they appointed a vice president who reported directly to the chairman, Mr. Chung.
Mm-hmm.
And so that sends fear in the organization. If your quality guy says, hey, do this, they know you're going to run and tell the chairman if you don't do it, you're going to do it. And so I think that's what they got to look at. I would say Ford should even look at what they did in the 1980s when they really turned their quality around. Quality is job one was the slogan. And they did it. I mean, all the quality measures, everything showed Ford right at the top. And remember, the Taurus knocked off the Camry and the Accord to become the best-selling sedan in America because the quality was so good at it. Ford's got to look at its roots, see what it did before. I think they got to appoint somebody who reports right to Farley, and maybe that would start changing things around.
But I mean, Farley had his career at Toyota. He knows all this stuff.
That's right. That's right.
So, again, what's taking them so long?
I wish I knew the answer to that. That's the you can't say $64,000 question. That's like about the $4 billion question.
And they lost $1.1 billion in the quarter on their EVs and software.
Yeah, but Gary, everybody's losing money on EVs. Ford is the only one with the guts to publish what the numbers are. GM's losing, Toyota's losing. Name any car company except for Tesla and BYD, and they're all losing money on their EVs. We just happen to know how much Ford is losing.
But the question becomes, how much can they afford to continue to lose? And the other guys as well. I mean, that this sort of becomes real money at some point, right?
Well, it already is real money. But then you look at what are the fines that you have to pay if you don't meet, the emission standards or the fuel economy standards. And you can pay them. I mean, what did Stellantis just got hit with like $128 million fine? But car companies don't like being lawbreakers. They can afford the fine. It's an image issue, and but it's a serious issue. And again, I come back to the only reason they went down this path is the regulations say you have to do this. So I cut these execs a lot of slack in that regard. I'll bet they wish they could roll back 3 years and make their decisions again. They'd still invest in EVs, but not to the extent that they have.
Paul, do you see any impact on Ford's perception in the market given these quality problems?
I mean, I don't see how there can't be, but Ford's still a strong brand, and there's a lot of loyalty there, especially where we live in Michigan. But yeah, it's going to catch up to them eventually. I can't believe how long it's gone on. And to your point, when Farley came in, I really thought it was going to be addressed. Heinrichs was one who got pushed out, and I think he was the closest one to making some headway in that area of quality. But I thought Farley, and to your point of coming from Toyota, he knows what quality manufacturing looks like. And the fact that he's been at the helm for this long and it hasn't changed, it almost seems like it's gone backwards in a few areas, is surprising to me.
Maybe bring Jim Hackett back.
No, Hackett, no, you don't want to do that. Look, obviously Farley and his team are hyper aware of this, hyper aware. I have no idea why they can't get their arms around it or haven't. Their latest report suggests they are making progress. I hope they make a whole lot of progress. But, it suggests that no one at the company really can put their finger on the pulse of what is the root cause of the problem.
I wonder if it's, not screwing the cars together in the factory as much as it is, the software and the interfaces and things like that, which are causing the quality problems. I mean, I think that all Ford plant people are really good at what they do in terms of putting this stuff together. I just wonder whether we're getting to the point where there is, 8S systems and sensors and the associated software and the controllers and the interfaces.
I think that's part of it, but the real thing is, look, it's been across model lines. It's been happening for many, many years. To me, what it suggests is it's a corporate structure problem. That you can't blame engineering, you can't blame manufacturing, you can't blame purchasing. It's some combination of all that is a breakdown in communications, a breakdown in follow-up, or something. But there's something to the structure that they haven't quite identified yet, is my opinion.
Although when we had Dave Andrea from Platt Moran on the show and did the OEM supplier relationship, and we saw Ford just plummeting, and so then you got to wonder, is General Motors saying, "Hey, we're going to pay you more to give us better product, so we can put that out there," and Ford saying, "We got to save some money here."
That's a great question. I don't know is that GM is paying more money. I think it's more early involvement. I think it's better communication. And, once you as a supplier have more trust in an automaker, you're going to do more for them. They got a problem, you're going to throw your A team on the problem. You hate some car company, they're treating you like dirt, you have terrible relations, you got a problem, okay, we're busy on other stuff, we'll get to it next week. And that's where the intangible benefits of having good supplier relations shines through. And cost accounting does not capture that. You look at, what are we paying for this component? What are we paying for this commodity? And when it's just a strict transaction, you miss these other things that suppliers will do for you if you have really good relations. Honda and Toyota have brilliant relations with their suppliers, and they'll go to the mat to help their OEM out. Whereas if you have terrible relations, what's my motivation to help you? You're just trying to screw me on price.
Do you think Ford backing away from, some of the vertical integration that they had in the past, do you think if they brought some of that back, that some of these problems might be alleviated?
No, look,
that it seems unsustainable to do that. But
Ford invented vertical integration, right? The Rouge plant was
right.
it. Raw materials came in one end and cars spit out the other. But what they got away from was, I put the blame full on the UAW, is, they were paying such high wages, such high healthcare costs, pension costs, that the automakers went, oh my God, we can buy this stuff so much cheaper from suppliers. Mm-hmm. And so the pendulum swung all the other way. I think they outsourced too much. But, they're not going to bring this stuff back in-house if they got to pay UAW wages when the Chinese are setting up shop in Mexico and saying, hey, we'll sell it to you for 35% cheaper.
Right.
So I don't see vertical integration coming from that way. Now, Tesla doesn't pay Mexican Chinese wages, and they're very vertically integrated. Now, having said that, there's a lot of Chinese parts in even in the U.S. made Teslas. But look, I think they would love to go to vertical integration, but as long as there's a supplier community out there that's willing to sell it at a cheaper price, you can't make the numbers work by bringing it in.
You look at it, BYD, that's part of their magic. Do you think that there's even a possibility that a domestic company could compete on that kind of a level because they don't have that vertical integration?
Well, BYD, I know some suppliers that sell to BYD. They said those guys are brutal. You think Stellantis is treating its suppliers bad, or Ford doesn't get a good rating? They said they resource their components every 6 months. Wow. 6 months. So it doesn't matter if you sign a 3-year supply contract. In 6 months, they're going, hey, we can get it cheaper, and if you can't meet the price, we're going to resource it elsewhere. I don't believe that's sustainable.
Right.
But right now, BYD is growing so fast all over the world, not just in China, that suppliers are hitch my wagon to this thing because it's pure growth.
Yeah.
And even though they're squeezing me like crazy on price, the growth is something I can't.
Well, they
walk
know
away
that the
from.
business is going to be there, right? Even if they're taking a little less profit now.
Right. So yeah, BYD is it's a monster, and it does do a lot in house. And I'll bet the people who are sewing up seats or molding headlamp lenses are not getting paid the same amount of money as the people assembling on the line.
Right.
I wouldn't do it. Neither would either of you guys.
Listen, a lot of people won't do it. This is why Elon wants to go to Optimus Robots, and that's something that we really have to keep an eye on.
Mhm.
You know, he's famous for over-promising and under-delivering, but as I like to say, eventually he does deliver. So he's saying Optimus Robots making cars next year. I'm not sure I buy it, but sometime this decade, you bet it's going to happen. You don't think so, Gary? Why not?
So if you look at every major robot manufacturer on the planet, how many of them are offering anthropomorphic robots? Near as I can tell, that might be zero.
No. Boston Dynamics is working on it. There's some Chinese company that's working on it. BMW's even toying around with putting,
Okay, but
robots.
Okay. So if we look at Boston Dynamics, okay, so what are they using their robot for? They're not using their robot to build things. They're using their robots to, say, guard perimeters and to go around. BMW is talking about using these robots basically for transport of goods.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. But I mean, there's a reason why cars look like cars, right? Because it turns out that over 120 years, that has become a pretty efficient design. Okay, overall, it's a pretty efficient design. So the classic 6-axis robot design, it's a pretty classic design that sort of fits the requirements of manufacturing operations. And therefore, I mean, yeah, maybe there'll be a cell somewhere where they'll be doing something with the Optimus robot, but by and large, I don't see it.
You could be right.
I mean, the tooling companies, they've gotten really damn good at what they do in terms of positioning and manipulating.
Also, what I would say is, I'm still thrilled by this Tesla unboxed assembly process. And I could see where pick and place could do the whole car. Where you don't even need humans, you don't need, walk around robots. You don't even need humans. I could see where you could design a car where pick and place robots would just assemble 6 different modules. Then you put the modules together at the end and you got a car. So yeah, you may not even need Optimus.
Brave new world.
Brave new world. And with that, we should wrap up the show.
Okay.
I think. Paul, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure.
Gary, this was good. And we got chief engineer of Escalade next year. Or next week. Next week, right. Next year. Don't have to wait that long, people.
Yeah, only a
Come on
week.
back then.
Only a week.
And by the way, if you like this kind of conversation, please subscribe to our channel or subscribe to our newsletter that you can get on the Autoline website.
AutoLine After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, solutions for your journey.